In the vast darkness of space, far beyond the reaches of Earth's solar system, an event unfolded that would change the course of history. The Galactic War Council, a powerful alliance of advanced civilizations, had always been seen as Earth's guardian against cosmic threats. For decades, humanity relied on their guidance and cutting-edge technology to protect their fragile planet. But trust has limits, and betrayal cuts deep. Captain Ryan Carter stood frozen in his command chair aboard the human cruiser Aurora Dawn *. His eyes were glued to the view screen as chaos erupted before him. The scene was horrifying. A massive fleet of Council warships opened fire on the unsuspecting Valoran vessels. The Valorans, longtime allies of Earth, had come to negotiate peace terms with the Council. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by enemies disguised as friends. Explosions lit up the cold void of space as one Valoran ship after another was torn apart. Ryan clenched his fists tightly around the armrests of his seat. He felt powerless, unable to intervene. The Council's orders were clear: no interference. "This can't be happening," he muttered under his breath. Beside him, Lieutenant Harper whispered something into her communicator, her voice trembling with disbelief. Every member of the crew shared the same look of shock and anger. Among the burning wreckage floated Ambassador Calvos, a close friend of Ryan's and the leader of the Valoran delegation. Through static-filled transmissions, Calvos sent a final message. "Do not let this go unanswered," he said, his voice strained but resolute. Then, silence. The transmission ended abruptly as his ship exploded in a blinding flash of light. Ryan closed his eyes for a moment, trying to steady himself. When he opened them again, determination burned in his gaze. Back on Earth, news of the betrayal spread like wildfire. People gathered in streets and squares, staring at giant screens displaying footage of the massacre. Some cried openly, others shouted in rage. The Council's actions left humanity divided. In government offices and military bunkers, heated debates raged about what to do next. General Laura Hayes, head of Earth's Defense Command, called an emergency meeting. Her face was grim as she addressed her advisors. "If we don't act now, we're next," she warned. "The Council sees us as expendable." Despite the fear gripping many, there were voices calling for resistance. Among them was Lieutenant Daniel Brooks, a young officer known for his sharp mind and unorthodox strategies. Sitting quietly in the corner of the room, he listened carefully to every word spoken. When it was his turn to speak, he stood up slowly, drawing everyone's attention. "We may not have their numbers or weapons," he began, "but we have something they don't expect: courage." Daniel proposed forming a secret task force to strike back at the Council, not directly, but by targeting their supply lines and weak points. It was a risky plan, almost suicidal, but it offered a glimmer of hope. Many doubted its chances of success, yet General Hayes saw potential in it. She gave Daniel permission to assemble a team and prepare for action. As he left the room, he couldn't shake off the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about survival. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens grappled with the reality of living in a universe where allies could become enemies overnight. Families huddled together, watching updates on their televisions. Children asked questions their parents couldn't answer. Fear lingered in the air, but so did resolve. Humanity had faced extinction-level threats before and survived. Now, more than ever, they needed to prove they wouldn't bow to tyranny, not even from those who once claimed to protect them. As the days passed, whispers of rebellion grew louder. People began volunteering for service, offering whatever skills they had to support the cause. Factories ramped up production of weapons and ships. Scientists worked tirelessly to improve Earth's defenses. And somewhere out there, floating among the stars, remnants of the Valoran fleet drifted silently, a haunting reminder of what had been lost and what still needed to be fought for. The aftermath of the betrayal left Earth in turmoil. While some citizens demanded immediate retaliation against the Galactic War Council, others feared such a move would only invite destruction. The Council was powerful, far beyond anything humanity could match. Their fleets were vast, their weapons unmatched, and their technology centuries ahead of Earth's. To strike back recklessly would mean certain doom. Yet, doing nothing felt equally impossible. General Laura Hayes sat in her office at Earth's Defense Command, EDC, staring at a map of the solar system projected on the wall. Her hands rested on the edge of her desk, fingers drumming softly as she thought. She knew that waiting for the Council to make the next move would leave humanity vulnerable. They needed to act, but carefully. After hours of deliberation, she decided to call Lieutenant Daniel Brooks into her office. Daniel arrived promptly, his uniform crisp despite the exhaustion visible in his eyes. He had barely slept since witnessing the massacre of the Valorans. When General Hayes explained her plan to form a secret task force, he listened intently. "We can't fight them head-on," she said firmly. "But we can hit where it hurts. Supply lines, communication hubs, anything they rely on to keep their war machine running." Daniel nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of what she was asking. It wasn't just about leading a team. It was about taking responsibility for decisions that could either save or doom humanity. "If we're caught," he said quietly, "they'll destroy us." "That's why you'll need to stay hidden," Hayes replied. "Pick your team wisely. People who can think fast, adapt quickly, and won't crack under pressure." With those words, she handed him a data pad containing preliminary plans and dismissed him. Over the next few days, Daniel worked tirelessly to assemble his crew. He started with Dr. Megan Ross, a brilliant scientist known for her work studying alien technology. Though usually reserved, Megan had a fierce determination when it came to protecting Earth. Next, he recruited Corporal Jake Miller, a skilled pilot whose daring maneuvers had saved countless lives during skirmishes with pirates near Mars. Finally, he chose Sergeant Olivia Grant, an engineer with expertise in explosives and sabotage. Each member brought something unique to the table, and together they formed Operation Shadow Strike. Their first mission was clear: infiltrate a derelict Valoran warship drifting near Neptune's orbit. Intelligence suggested it contained valuable information about the Council's operations. If they could retrieve it, they might find weaknesses to exploit. But getting there unnoticed would be tricky. The Council had increased patrols throughout the system, and even a hint of unauthorized activity could draw unwanted attention. As the team prepared for departure, tensions ran high. None of them doubted the importance of their mission, but the risks weighed heavily on their minds. During a briefing in the hangar bay, Daniel addressed the group. "This isn't just about revenge," he said firmly. "It's about survival. We do this not because we want to, but because we have to." Megan adjusted her glasses nervously. "What if we don't find anything useful?" she asked. "Then we come back and try again," Daniel replied without hesitation. "Failure isn't an option." Jake smirked, trying to lighten the mood. "Well, let's hope our luck holds out better than last time," he joked, referring to a close call during a training exercise. Even Olivia managed a small smile, though her expression remained serious. When the moment came to launch, the shuttle carrying the team slipped silently out of Earth's atmosphere. As they approached the wreckage of the Valoran ship, the enormity of their task settled over them. Floating amidst the debris were fragments of a once proud civilization: twisted metal, shattered hulls, and faint traces of energy signatures. It was a grim reminder of what the Council was capable of. Inside the ship, darkness enveloped them. Emergency lights flickered weakly, casting eerie shadows along the corridors. Every step echoed loudly, making them hyper-aware of their surroundings. Megan led the way, scanning walls and consoles for any sign of usable data. "There's still power here," she whispered, pointing to a blinking control panel. "Someone, or something, might still be active." Daniel tightened his grip on his weapon. "Stay sharp," he warned. For now, they were alone, but how long that would last remained uncertain. The derelict Valoran warship loomed ahead, its jagged edges and scorched hull a testament to the violence it had endured. The team's shuttle docked quietly in what remained of the ship's landing bay. As they stepped out, the air was thick with the smell of burnt metal and the eerie silence of a ghost ship. Dust floated lazily in the dim light, and every sound they made, footsteps, breathing, even the faint hum of their equipment, felt unnaturally loud. Daniel took point, his weapon ready but lowered for now. Behind him, Megan carried a handheld scanner, its soft beeping guiding them deeper into the wreckage. Jake stayed close to the rear, keeping an eye on their escape route, while Olivia secured the area, setting small marker lights along the way to ensure they could find their way back. The mission was clear: locate any surviving data about the Council's operations. If they succeeded, Earth might stand a chance against its oppressors. As they moved through the corridors, the signs of destruction were everywhere. Panels hung loose from walls, wires dangled like vines, and scorch marks scarred the floors. At one point, Megan stopped abruptly, her scanner emitting a sharp tone. "There's something here," she said, pointing to a partially intact console embedded in the wall. She knelt down, pulling out a small device to interface with the alien technology. After a few tense moments, the screen flickered to life, displaying fragmented logs written in Valoran script. "Can you read it?" Daniel asked, glancing over her shoulder. "Not directly," Megan replied, adjusting her glasses, "but I can translate parts of it." Her fingers danced across the keys as she worked. Slowly, pieces of information began to emerge. The logs revealed that the Council had been planning this betrayal for months, framing the Valorans as aggressors to justify their attack. Worse still, there were references to upcoming strikes on resource-rich planets, including one dangerously close to Earth. "This changes everything," Daniel muttered under his breath. If the Council targeted nearby systems, Earth would be next. He turned to the others. "We need to grab whatever we can and get out of here." Before they could act, however, alarms blared suddenly, shattering the quiet. Red warning lights flashed throughout the corridor, bathing everything in an ominous glow. "What did you do?" Jake asked sharply, looking at Megan. "I didn't trigger anything," she protested, frantically disconnecting her device. But it was too late. Automated defenses had awakened, responding to their presence. Heavy footsteps echoed in the distance. Security drones, dormant until now, were coming online. "We've got company," Olivia shouted, spotting movement at the far end of the hallway. Two bulky drones rolled toward them, weapons charging with a low whine. Without hesitation, Daniel raised his rifle and fired, disabling one before it could get a lock on them. Jake followed suit, taking out the second with precise shots. "Move," Daniel ordered, ushering the group forward. They sprinted through the narrow passages, dodging falling debris as more alarms sounded. The ship was falling apart around them, its ancient systems failing under the strain of sudden activity. Sparks rained down from exposed wiring, and sections of the ceiling collapsed behind them, forcing them to take alternate routes. Megan clutched the data drive tightly, refusing to let go despite the chaos. "We can't leave without this," she yelled, her voice tinged with desperation. Daniel nodded, understanding the stakes. If they lost the intel, all of this would have been for nothing. Finally, they'd reached the docking bay where their shuttle waited. But just as they thought they were safe, another wave of drones appeared, blocking their path. Olivia sprang into action, tossing an electromagnetic pulse grenade that disabled the machines long enough for the team to slip past. "Go, go, go," she urged, staying behind to hold off any stragglers. As the others boarded the shuttle, Daniel hesitated, searching for Olivia. "Come on," he shouted, waving her forward. She gave him a determined smile and sprinted toward the ship, diving inside just as the hatch sealed shut. The engines roared to life, lifting them away seconds before the derelict ship collapsed entirely, swallowed by Neptune's gravitational pull. Back aboard the Aurora Dawn, the team regrouped, exhausted but triumphant. Megan immediately began analyzing the recovered data, her hands trembling with excitement. For the first time since the betrayal, Earth had something tangible to fight back with, a glimmer of hope in an otherwise bleak situation. The team returned to Earth with the data they had recovered from the derelict Valoran warship. Exhausted but determined, they handed over the drive to General Laura Hayes at Earth's Defense Command headquarters. The room was tense as technicians worked tirelessly to decrypt and analyze the information. Megan stayed by their side, explaining what she had already pieced together during the flight back. Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed the weight of what they had uncovered. "The Council isn't just targeting Earth," Megan said, pointing to a holographic map projected above the table. "They're planning to seize control of resource-rich planets across several sectors. These planets are vital for fueling their fleets and expanding their power." She highlighted one planet in particular, a small but mineral-rich world orbiting a distant star. It was dangerously close to Earth's solar system, making it a potential stepping stone for an invasion. General Hayes leaned forward, her expression grim. "If we let them take that planet, they'll have us surrounded," she said firmly. "We need to act before they solidify their grip." Daniel stood nearby, his arms crossed as he listened intently. He knew what this meant. Another dangerous mission, but unlike their previous operation, this one would require precision and timing. After hours of discussion, the team devised a plan. They would target Nexus 7, a heavily guarded space station that served as a critical supply hub for the Council's fleet. If they could disable it, even temporarily, it would disrupt the Council's operations and buy Earth time to prepare. To pull off such a daring strike, they needed to blend in. Jake suggested disguising themselves as traders delivering routine cargo shipments. "It's risky, but it might work," he said confidently. "I've flown under Council radar before. As long as we look harmless, they won't suspect a thing." Olivia nodded in agreement, and while they're distracted, I can plant EMP charges throughout the station. Once they go off, the whole place will shut down. Megan hesitated, her brow furrowed. "What about getting out? If we disable the station, we won't have much time to escape." "That's why we stick to the plan," Daniel interjected. "We get in, set the charges, and get out. No delays, no mistakes." His tone left no room for argument. Everyone understood the stakes. Failure wasn't an option. Preparations began immediately. A stolen freighter was refitted to look like a standard trading vessel, complete with fake manifests and forged credentials. The EMP devices were disguised as ordinary crates of supplies, their true purpose hidden beneath layers of deception. Jake spent hours practicing docking maneuvers, ensuring he could navigate the cluttered corridors of Nexus 7 without raising suspicion. Meanwhile, Olivia tested and retested the charges, making sure they would detonate exactly when needed. As the launch date approached, the team gathered one last time to review the plan. Each member knew their role inside and out. Megan would monitor communications and provide real-time updates from aboard the Aurora Dawn Asterisk. Jake would pilot the freighter and keep the Council guards distracted. Olivia would handle the explosives, moving swiftly and silently through the station. And Daniel would oversee everything, ready to adapt if anything went wrong. When the day finally came, the team climbed aboard the freighter, their faces set with determination. Jake took the controls, guiding the ship smoothly into open space. Behind them, Earth grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared entirely. For hours, they traveled in silence, the hum of the engines the only sound breaking the tension. As they neared Nexus 7, the enormity of what they were about to attempt settled over them. The station loomed ahead, a massive structure bristling with weapons and patrols. Its surface gleamed under the light of a nearby star, a symbol of the Council's dominance. Jake slowed the ship, matching speed with the station as he transmitted their forged credentials. "Here goes nothing," he muttered, his hand steady on the controls. For a moment, it seemed like they might actually make it. Then, a crackle came over the comms. "Hold your position," a cold voice ordered. "We're sending a patrol to inspect your cargo." Daniel exchanged a glance with Olivia. This was the moment they had feared, the moment where everything could fall apart. The team tensed as the Council patrol ship approached their freighter. Jake kept his hand steady on the controls, forcing a calm expression onto his face, despite the storm of nerves inside him. On the view screen, two Council enforcers in sleek black uniforms appeared, their faces unreadable behind reflective visors. One of them spoke again, his tone sharp and commanding. "Open your cargo bay for inspection." Jake forced a smile, trying to sound casual. "Sure thing," he replied, his voice light but not too eager. He tapped a few buttons on the console, unlocking the cargo hold remotely. The patrol ship docked briefly, and the enforcers floated inside, their boots clanking softly as they landed on the metal floor. Daniel, Olivia, and Megan stayed out of sight, hiding behind stacked crates while holding their breath. The enforcers moved methodically, scanning each container with handheld devices that emitted soft beeping sounds. Every second felt like an eternity. Megan gripped the edge of a crate tightly, her knuckles white. If the scanners detected even a hint of the EMP charges hidden within the fake cargo, it would all be over. But the devices remained silent, green lights flashing steadily as they passed over the disguised explosives. One of the enforcers paused near a stack of crates where Olivia was crouched just inches away. She pressed herself flat against the wall, her heart pounding so loudly she feared they might hear it. The enforcer tapped his scanner once more, then turned to his partner. "Looks clean," he said dismissively. "Let's wrap this up." Olivia exhaled slowly, careful not to make a sound. Moments later, the enforcers returned to their patrol ship, signaling that the freighter was cleared to proceed. Jake waited until they were safely back aboard their vessel before closing the cargo bay doors. As soon as the patrol ship drifted away, he whispered into the comms, "We're clear. Let's move fast. They'll still be watching us." The team sprang into action. Olivia grabbed her toolkit and slipped out of the freighter, heading straight for the station's maintenance tunnels. These narrow passages ran throughout Nexus 7, allowing her to plant the EMP charges without being seen. Megan monitored the station's systems from the freighter, guiding Olivia through secure routes and warning her of any nearby patrols. Meanwhile, Daniel stayed by Jake's side, keeping watch over the docking bay in case reinforcements arrived unexpectedly. Time ticked away mercilessly. Each charge Olivia planted brought them closer to success, but also closer to discovery. At one point, she froze when footsteps echoed nearby. A lone council technician rounded the corner, muttering to himself as he inspected a panel. Olivia ducked into an alcove, holding her breath until he passed. When the coast was clear, she resumed her work, her movements quick and precise. Back on the freighter, Jake grew increasingly restless. "How much longer?" he asked, glancing at the clock on the console. "Almost done," Olivia replied quietly over the comms. Her voice was strained but focused. She placed the final charge near the station's central power core, ensuring maximum impact when it detonated. "All charges are set. I'm heading back now." As Olivia retraced her steps toward the docking bay, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Someone had discovered one of the charges, or worse, traced their presence. Red warning lights flashed, casting long shadows across the corridors. Council enforcers swarmed the area, shouting orders and sealing off exits. "We've got company," Daniel warned, spotting a group of guards rushing toward the freighter. He turned to Jake. "Get ready to launch. We can't wait any longer." "I'm almost there," Olivia shouted, sprinting down the corridor. Behind her, heavy boots pounded the floor as enforcers closed in. Reaching the docking bay, she leaped aboard the freighter just as the hatch began to seal. "Go, go, go," she yelled, slamming her fist against the control panel. Jake didn't need to be told twice. He fired the engines, pulling the freighter away from Nexus 7 with seconds to spare. On the view screen, the station loomed large and then erupted in chaos. The EMP charges detonated in sequence, creating a chain reaction that plunged the massive structure into darkness. Lights flickered and died, weapon systems went offline, and communications fell silent. For a moment, the team sat in stunned silence, watching the aftermath unfold. Then, slowly, smiles spread across their faces. Against all odds, they had succeeded. Nexus 7 was crippled, and the Council's supply lines were in disarray. It wasn't victory, not yet, but it was a start. And for the first time since the betrayal, Earth had struck back with fury. The destruction of Nexus 7 sent shockwaves through the Council's ranks. News of the attack spread quickly, and within hours, emergency channels buzzed with frantic communications. The Council had not anticipated such a bold move from Earth. For years, they had viewed humanity as weak and divided, incapable of mounting any real resistance. Now, that illusion was shattered. Back on Earth, the team gathered in a secure briefing room at Defense Command Headquarters. General Laura Hayes stood at the head of the table, her expression a mix of pride and concern. "You've struck a major blow," she said, addressing the group. "But don't think for a second this is over. The Council will retaliate, and when they do, it won't be subtle." Daniel nodded, his mind already racing ahead to what came next. "They'll send reinforcements to protect their remaining supply lines," he said. "We need to hit them again before they regroup." He glanced at Megan, who was reviewing data from the EMP strike. "Do we have anything else we can use against them?" Megan hesitated, tapping a few keys on her tablet. "There's one more target," she said cautiously. "A research outpost near Jupiter. It's where they develop new weapons technology. If we destroy it, we could slow their advancements significantly." General Hayes frowned. "That's deep in their territory. Getting there undetected won't be easy." "We've done impossible things before," Jake chimed in, leaning back in his chair with a confident grin. "Besides, if we time it right, we might catch them off guard." Olivia crossed her arms, her tone serious. "It's risky, but worth it. We can't let them get an edge over us." After some deliberation, the decision was made. The team would prepare for another mission, this time targeting the research outpost. They knew the stakes were higher than ever. If caught, there would be no mercy from the Council. But failure wasn't an option either. Humanity's survival depended on keeping the pressure on. Preparations began immediately. The freighter was refitted once more, its systems upgraded to better evade detection. Megan worked tirelessly to create false IDs and forged credentials, ensuring they could pass as Council personnel if necessary. Olivia spent hours testing new explosives designed to cause maximum damage without leaving traces of their origin. Meanwhile, Jake practiced evasive maneuvers, honing his skills to navigate even the most heavily guarded areas. As the launch date approached, tensions ran high. Each member of the team understood the gravity of what they were about to attempt. During a final briefing, Daniel addressed the group. "This isn't just about sabotage anymore," he said firmly. "It's about sending a message. We're not afraid of them. And if they come for us, we'll be ready." The night before the mission, the team shared a quiet meal together. Conversation was sparse, each person lost in their own thoughts. Megan stared at her plate, pushing food around absent-mindedly. Olivia cleaned her weapons with meticulous care, her movements calm but deliberate. Jake cracked jokes to lighten the mood, though his usual bravado seemed slightly forced. Even Daniel, usually stoic, allowed himself a moment of vulnerability. "What happens after this?" Megan asked suddenly, breaking the silence. Her voice was soft, but carried an unspoken weight. "We keep fighting," Daniel replied simply, "one step at a time." The next morning, they boarded the freighter and set course for Jupiter. As they traveled, the vastness of space stretched endlessly around them, a reminder of how small they were compared to the forces they faced. Yet, despite the odds, determination burned brightly within them. They had struck fear into the Council once. Now, they intended to do it again. When they reached the research outpost, The structure loomed ahead, a sleek, metallic dome surrounded by defensive turrets. Jake guided the freighter toward a docking bay, transmitting their forged credentials. For a moment, everything seemed to go according to plan. Then, a voice crackled over the comms. "Hold your position. We're running additional scans." Daniel exchanged a glance with Olivia. This was it, the moment where everything could unravel. The team froze as the voice over the comms demanded further scans. Jake's hands hovered over the controls, his knuckles white from gripping them tightly. On the view screen, Council enforcers moved with precision, their movements sharp and calculated. Megan leaned closer to her tablet, her eyes scanning the outpost's security protocols. "They're running deeper checks on our credentials," she whispered urgently. "We have maybe 2 minutes before they figure out we're fakes." Daniel clenched his jaw. "Olivia, prep the charges. If they catch us, we'll need to take this place down anyway." He glanced at Jake. "Keep them distracted. Buy us some time." Jake nodded, forcing a calm tone into his voice as he responded to the council. "No problem," he said lightly. "Just finishing up some routine diagnostics. Won't take long." His fingers danced across the console, feeding false data into the outpost's systems. It was a risky move. If the council noticed the discrepancies, it would only raise more suspicion, but it was their only chance. Meanwhile, Olivia slipped quietly out of the freighter, clutching her toolkit and a small bag of explosives. The docking bay was dimly lit, giving her just enough cover to stay hidden. She moved swiftly, sticking to the shadows as she made her way toward the outpost's main reactor core. Megan's voice crackled softly in her earpiece. "You've got 3 guards patrolling near your route. Wait for my signal to move." Olivia crouched behind a stack of crates, her breath steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Moments later, Megan spoke again. "Now, go." Olivia darted forward, her boots making barely a sound against the metal floor. She reached the reactor room without incident, slipping inside and locking the door behind her. Back aboard the freighter, Daniel kept watch over the docking bay. The council enforcers were growing impatient, their voices sharper now. "Why is this taking so long?" one of them demanded. Jake forced another smile, though no one could see it. "Almost done," he replied smoothly. "Just double-checking everything to make sure it's perfect." As Jake stalled, Olivia worked quickly. She attached the charges to key points around the reactor, setting timers that would give them just enough time to escape. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, but her mind raced. Every second felt like an eternity. When the final charge was in place, she whispered into her comms, "Charges are set. I'm heading back." But as she turned to leave, the door hissed open unexpectedly. 2 enforcers stood in the doorway, their weapons trained on her. "Freeze," one of them barked. Olivia reacted instantly, tossing a smoke grenade to the ground. Thick gray clouds filled the room, obscuring her movements. She dove sideways, rolling behind a console as laser fire erupted around her. "Olivia, what's happening?" Daniel's voice came sharply through her earpiece. "They found me," she replied tersely, her voice strained but focused. "I'm handling it." Using the chaos of the smoke, Olivia managed to slip past the enforcers and bolt out of the room. She sprinted down the corridor, her heart pounding as alarms blared throughout the outpost. Council personnel scrambled to respond, their shouts echoing in the narrow hallways. Megan guided her step by step, warning of patrols and suggesting alternate routes. When Olivia finally reached the docking bay, Jake had already fired up the engines. "Go, go, go," Daniel shouted as she leaped aboard. Jake didn't hesitate, slamming the throttle forward and launching the freighter away from the outpost. Behind them, the structure began to collapse, explosions rippling through its core as the charges detonated. For a moment, the team sat in silence, watching the destruction unfold on the view screen. Then, slowly, smiles spread across their faces. Against all odds, they had succeeded once again. The research outpost was gone, and with it, the Council's latest advancements in weapon technology. It wasn't victory, not yet, but it was another step forward. And for Earth's defenders, every step mattered. The destruction of the research outpost sent shockwaves through the Council's ranks. Their leaders, once confident in their dominance, now faced a growing unease. Humanity had proven itself unpredictable and dangerous, a threat that could not be ignored. Enraged by the repeated attacks on their infrastructure, the Council issued a galaxy-wide alert, labeling Earth's defenders as terrorists. Massive fleets were mobilized, and reinforcements poured into nearby sectors. The message was clear: retaliation was coming. On Earth, news of the team's success spread quickly. People gathered in streets and squares, cheering for the brave men and women who had struck back against their oppressors. Screens displayed footage of the crumbling research outpost, accompanied by passionate speeches from military leaders and politicians. General Laura Hayes addressed the public in a televised broadcast, her voice steady but resolute. "We have shown the Council that we will not bow to tyranny," she declared. "But this is only the beginning. We must remain vigilant, united, and ready to defend our home." Despite the celebrations, the mood at Defense Command Headquarters was tense. The team convened in the briefing room, their expressions grim. Daniel stood at the head of the table, studying a holographic map of the solar system. "They're coming," he said simply. "And when they arrive, they'll bring everything they've got." Megan nodded, her fingers flying over her tablet. "Their fleet movements suggest they're targeting Saturn first. There are rumors of surviving Valorans gathering there, trying to rebuild after the massacre. If the Council takes them out, it'll crush any hope of an alliance." Jake leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "Then we stop them before they reach Saturn. We can't let them destroy what's left of our allies." Olivia spoke up, her tone firm. "We can't face their fleet head-on. But maybe we don't need to. If we hit their command ship, the Eternal Sovereign Asterisk, it could throw their entire operation into chaos." Daniel considered her words carefully. The Eternal Sovereign Asterisk was the Council's flagship, a massive vessel bristling with weapons and protected by layers of defenses. Taking it down would be nearly impossible, yet the idea sparked something in him, a flicker of hope. "If we time it right," he said slowly, "we might be able to pull it off. They won't expect us to go after their strongest asset." General Hayes entered the room just then, her presence commanding immediate attention. "I heard your plan," she said, her gaze sweeping over the group. "It's risky, but it might work. I'm authorizing full support. Use whatever resources you need." With renewed determination, the team began preparations for their most ambitious mission yet. They modified the freighter further, equipping it with advanced stealth systems and additional firepower. Megan worked tirelessly to decrypt intercepted communications, piecing together the Council's battle strategy. Olivia designed specialized explosives capable of penetrating the Eternal Sovereign's reinforced hull, while Jake practiced evasive maneuvers to navigate the dense formations of enemy ships. As the launch date approached, the weight of the mission settled heavily on each member. They knew this was their last chance to turn the tide. During a quiet moment before departure, Daniel addressed the group. "This isn't just about survival anymore," he said firmly. "It's about proving that humanity stands for something. Courage, unity, justice. No matter what happens, we fight with fury." The night before the mission, the team shared a meal together, their conversation subdued but filled with unspoken resolve. When morning came, they boarded the freighter and set course for Saturn. As they traveled, the vastness of space stretched endlessly around them, a reminder of the stakes they faced. The Council's fleet loomed ahead, a wall of steel and fire. But within the hearts of Earth's defenders burned a fierce determination. They had struck fear into the Council once. Now they intended to finish what they started. When they reached the battlefield, chaos erupted. Laser fire lit up the darkness as human and Valoran forces clashed with the Council's armada. Amidst the turmoil, the team launched their assault on the Eternal Sovereign Asterisk, knowing that failure meant annihilation. For Earth, for the Valorans, and for freedom, they fought with everything they had. The battlefield near Saturn was a swirling chaos of fire and debris. Council ships loomed like dark giants, their weapons blazing as they overwhelmed the scattered forces of Earth and the surviving Valorans. Against this backdrop of destruction, the freighter carrying Daniel and his team slipped quietly into the fray. Using advanced stealth systems, Jake navigated the ship through the dense formations of enemy vessels, avoiding detection while closing in on their target, the Eternal Sovereign Asterisk. Megan monitored the Council's communications, her face pale but focused. "They're concentrating their forces on the Valoran fleet," she reported. "If we act now, we might catch them off guard." Daniel nodded, gripping the edge of his seat. "Olivia, get ready to deploy the charges. Jake, keep us close enough to strike, but far enough to escape when it's done." Olivia double-checked her equipment, her hands steady despite the tension. She carried a compact pack filled with explosives designed to pierce the flagship's reinforced hull. As the freighter approached the massive vessel, Jake brought them within range of one of its maintenance hatches. The hatch was heavily guarded, but Megan had identified a brief window during which patrols would shift positions. Timing was critical. "Now," Megan whispered urgently. Jake maneuvered the freighter into position just as the patrol moved away. Olivia sprang into action, slipping out of the ship and attaching magnetic clamps to the hatch. With practiced precision, she disabled the locking mechanism and slipped inside, disappearing into the bowels of the Eternal Sovereign Asterisk. Behind her, the freighter drifted slightly away, staying hidden in the shadows. Inside the ship, Olivia moved quickly, guided by Megan's directions over her earpiece. The corridors were eerily quiet, the hum of the ship's engines vibrating through the walls. She reached the reactor core and began setting the charges, her movements swift and deliberate. Each explosive was equipped with a timer, giving her just enough time to escape before detonation. Meanwhile, outside the flagship, the battle raged on. Valoran fighters darted between Council ships, their smaller size allowing them to evade heavy fire. Earth's cruisers launched coordinated volleys, trying to create openings for their allies. Amidst the chaos, Ryan Carter led a squadron of human pilots, his voice crackling over comms as he directed attacks. "Hold the line," he shouted. "We can't let them break through." Back aboard the freighter, Daniel and Jake watched anxiously for any sign of trouble. Suddenly, alarms blared inside the Eternal Sovereign Asterisk, alerting the Council to the intruder. "Olivia, you've got company," Megan warned, her voice tight with urgency. "I'm almost done," Olivia replied, finishing the last charge. As she turned to leave, Council enforcers appeared at the far end of the corridor, their weapons drawn. Thinking quickly, she tossed a smoke grenade, vanishing into the haze. She retraced her steps, dodging patrols and narrowly avoiding capture. When she finally reached the freighter, Jake wasted no time. He fired the engines and pulled away from the flagship, accelerating toward open space. Behind them, the Eternal Sovereign Asterisk erupted in a brilliant explosion, its massive frame crumbling under the force of the blasts. The shockwave rippled through the battlefield, scattering nearby ships and throwing the Council fleet into disarray. The surviving Valorans seized the opportunity, launching a fierce counterattack alongside Earth's forces. Together, they pushed back against the Council, driving their enemies into retreat. As the dust settled, cheers erupted across the battlefield. Humanity and the Valorans had struck a decisive blow, proving that even the mighty Council could bleed. On board the freighter, the team sat in stunned silence, watching the wreckage of the Eternal Sovereign Asterisk drift apart. They had risked everything, and won. For the first time in months, hope flickered brightly in their hearts. The fight wasn't over, but they had shown the universe that Earth's defenders would never surrender. The destruction of the Eternal Sovereign Asterisk sent a clear message to the Galactic War Council. Earth would not be silenced. Though their flagship was gone and their forces scattered, the Council was far from defeated. Retreating into the depths of space, They regrouped, vowing to return with even greater strength. But for now, the immediate threat had passed, and humanity stood victorious, for the first time in what felt like an eternity. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted across the planet. Cities lit up with fireworks, and crowds gathered in streets and parks, chanting the names of the heroes who had struck back against tyranny. Images of Daniel, Jake, Olivia, and Megan appeared on screens worldwide, their faces symbols of courage and defiance. General Laura Hayes addressed the public once more, her voice filled with pride. Today we proved that no force, no matter how powerful, can crush the spirit of humanity, she declared. But this is not the end. We must remain united, vigilant, and ready to defend our home. At Defense Command Headquarters, the team reunited for a debriefing. The weight of their victory settled over them, but so did the knowledge that the fight was far from over. Daniel stood quietly at the window, staring out at the Earth below. It was beautiful, a fragile blue sphere floating in the vastness of space. For all its flaws, it was worth protecting. "We've bought ourselves time," he said finally, breaking the silence. "But they'll come back stronger next time." Megan nodded, adjusting her glasses as she reviewed data from the battle. "Their fleet is still intact, just smaller. They'll rebuild quickly. We need to prepare for another attack." Jake leaned back in his chair, his usual confidence tempered by exhaustion. "Then let's make sure we're ready. If they want to fight, we'll give them one they won't forget." Olivia remained quiet, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She had lost friends during the mission, brave souls who hadn't made it back. Her heart ached, but she knew their sacrifices weren't in vain. "We owe it to them to keep going," she said softly, "to make sure their deaths mean something." General Hayes entered the room then, her expression serious but hopeful. "You've done more than anyone could have asked," she told them. "But the road ahead will be long. The Council isn't finished with us, and neither are we with them. I'm authorizing expanded operations, more ships, more resources, and stronger alliances. Humanity has allies now, thanks to you." Among those allies were the surviving Valorans. Commander Silas, leader of the Valoran fleet, approached Earth's leaders with an offer of partnership. Together, humans and Valorans began rebuilding their forces, sharing technology and strategies to strengthen their defenses. Factories worked around the clock to produce new ships and weapons, while scientists collaborated to develop innovations capable of matching the Council's advancements. As weeks turned into months, life on Earth began to change. Fear gave way to determination, and division transformed into unity. People volunteered in droves, eager to contribute however they could. Teachers educated children about the importance of resilience. Engineers built shelters to protect cities from orbital strikes. Farmers grew food to sustain growing armies. Every corner of society played a role in preparing for the battles yet to come. For Daniel and his team, there was little time to rest. They continued leading missions, striking at the Council's remaining supply lines, and gathering intelligence on their plans. Each success brought them closer to evening the odds, though the cost weighed heavily on their shoulders. Still, they pressed on, driven by the belief that humanity deserved a future free from oppression. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Daniel found himself standing on a balcony overlooking the bustling city below. Lights twinkled in the distance, a reminder of everything they were fighting for. Behind him, Megan joined him, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Do you think we'll ever see peace?" she asked quietly. Daniel took a sip, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I do know this. We'll keep fighting until we do. For Earth, for the Valorans, and for everyone who believes in freedom." And so, humanity stood ready, united in purpose and unyielding in spirit. The Galactic War Council had underestimated them once. They wouldn't make the same mistake twice.